Hi again, everybody, and welcome to a Drafthouse Diary for Wednesday, November 1st, 2023, when I came out here to the Alamo Drafthouse Aspen Grove to see Five Nights at Freddy's.
Hey!
I've also refurbished Ian and brought him with me as a guest reviewer.
Ooh, I don't click anymore.
Ian has a perspective on this movie that I really don't, so we're going to offer two separate reviews here. I don't know very much about the video game on which this is based, just its existence and the very general sense of what it's about. So I was really looking at this, just coming into it as a movie. And as a movie, I was perfectly satisfied. This was not groundbreaking, but it did some interesting things and it achieved what it was going for very well, I thought. I've said before, I'm not a fan of things like slasher movies. I'm a big fan of things like ghost stories. And this movie, it blended aspects of the slasher movie and the ghost story very, very well, very deftly, and in a way that aspect of the movie was not very predictable. Like most horror movies, this did have aspects of a mystery. What is really going on? Who is really who? How does this relate to the past? And a lot of the theme of the movie was about the importance of the past versus the present versus the future, what choices we make. But in terms of the mystery aspects, none of the big reveals were at all a surprise by the time they got around to them. It was still quite kind of satisfying to see it play out. So, yeah, I think this was a perfectly serviceable movie, and it was a fun time. Now, Ian, what did you think of this movie coming to it as a fan of the video game?
Oh, that's the thing. Like, I'm a fan of the theories and the fan culture. I might have bought the games. I have never been able to play or complete one. So, for me, I'm a person who found it early through things like game theory and other theorist channels online, which, by the way, if the small spoiler ahead, when the host of game theory from YouTube showed up as a waiter, I was very bewildered. They actually gave him a part in the movie. I'm going, oh my goodness, it's him. And they even gave him a line about it. But I'm fascinated as an adaptation of a video game because this is a game series that did not start planning to tell the story it eventually told. The original game, the concept that there are murderous animatronics survive, and there's a hinting story that there's ghosts in the background of missing kids, is something you have to kind of figure out. It was something for the community to grab onto and theorize about. But later games gave us more story and more characters. It explained who killed them better. It gave us new characters like Little Balloon Boy and such. And even the most recent game gave us a security guard named Vanessa, who plays part of the story. So this is a reinterpretation that takes the original setting, but kind of rebuilds the ghost story element using all of the pieces at its disposal. And that was very good. In terms of an interpretation, this felt like the first game, but post everyone loving the characters who in the first one were the scary things to kill you, and by now are the plushies you're happy to buy.
Yeah.
And so it kind of had to make them friendlier and make them go through their entire story arc now, instead of 3, 4, 5 games from now. And that's fascinating and really well done, but it makes me wonder what they do for a next story. They kind of have to skip the second, maybe ignore the fourth game, probably never get to the most recent complete reboot series, and rebuild a sequel from the other parts they haven't used. Kind of like refurbishing an old animatronic, I guess. So, overall, an excellent adaptation, but one that has to deal with the change in the brand from when the story it proposes to tell of that first game to now. That's changed enough that retelling the first isn't the same anymore.
And dealing with that shifting way in which different people perceive these monsters, for lack of a better term, That worked very well in this movie, and it
Hugely
served
well.
that ghost story aspect and that mystery aspect extremely well. So it sounds as if they were able to take the game and treat that as a solid first draft, and write from that a screenplay that smooths out that story, makes it more consistent, allows it to build a little more carefully to what the game eventually became.
A separate spoiler for a different movie here, and possibly giving Five Nights at Freddy's more credit than it needs to in the horror franchise. But I felt in some ways the way they moved from piece to piece, where our animatronic friends, our friends and horror and friends and horror, reminded me in some weird way of the way in the original Ring, or the American Ring, Samsara goes from the ghost you're helping to the danger. And if you kept flip-flopping that line, you'd kind of get what they're doing with the animatronics. They're friendly, then they're not, then they're friendly. And why they go back and forth is part of that wonder.
So, as I say, I was very satisfied by this movie, very happy to have seen it, and very happy to be getting your impressions with a different perspective on this. Other parts of our trip to the Alamo, the pre-show was good. I guess it was kind of predictable, but it was very good. There were like one or two cartoons that involved singing animals, but almost the entire pre-show was commercials and other kinds of little featurettes about Chuck E. Cheese knockoffs. Let's be clear about this. Pizza places with games and animatronic musicians. Sometimes they were bunnies, sometimes they were woodchucks.
One time
we saw everything
Rocky from Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yes, and they did have the Rock-afire explosion there. Never had any actual Chuck E. Cheese, and nothing else about the game, which was an interesting choice.
That was surprising to me. There was no gameplay, none of the online like community videos that I would have expected. I could imagine someone coming into this and not knowing about the franchise and never realizing it was a video game, because they don't they use a few video game graphic things at the beginning, but they're using the same Atari aesthetic that the games like to use for flashback. And there are a lot of other things in the world that are references and sprites and bits from the game, just in its world building, even outside of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. They never actually kind of acknowledge their video game origin. And that was really surprising to me. And in the movie, and now in Alamo, they don't do that either. So it's almost like the brand is trying to distance itself from that fact, and Alamo went with it in a surprising way.
And I kind of appreciate that, because it did allow people like me who didn't really know much about the game to come at this just as a movie. I can understand why in Dungeons and Dragons, the pre-roll was a lot about the fact that this was a tabletop role-playing game, because it already is so widely known. I don't think many people were going into the D&D movie not knowing it was based on a game.
Yeah.
This, I bet a lot of people just see it as a horror movie, and it should be possible to take that movie just on its own merits, which we could.
Absolutely. But yeah, Alamo did it too, so I guess they're keeping with that.
We also had some food. We tried the baked pretzel again. I still think that is a little bit too soft and a little bit too salty. I like even a soft, hot pretzel to be crisp on the outside more than this is. It was a little better than the last one I had, but still, it's not my kind of pretzel.
This is better than some soft pretzels I've had, and it's in that a good place that knows how to make a super pretzel kind of territory for me. I thought it was good. I, though, surprisingly, didn't find either of their dips great. The cheese was a little not doing great, and the honey mustard was an interesting thing, but it just was a different experience for this than I'm looking for.
And I think for entrees, we each had things we had had before. I had the Royale with cheese, their bacon cheeseburger. First time I've had that in a while. It used to be a go-to. I haven't had that in many months. But it was good, as usual. And you had the cauliflower bites again, didn't you?
Yeah, I love those cauliflower bites. They're one of my favorites. And I went with the Reaper sauce again this time because I like it spicy. I will say I got a lot of fries and a lot of small bits of cauliflower this time.
Oh.
So I felt like I was at the start of the fry bag and the end of the cauliflower bite bag in terms of their frying setup. But it worked well. I do always dislike the fact that they don't really have much in terms of dipping other than that vegan ranch, which never sits well with me.
Yeah.
So I'm just hoping one of these days they're going to wind up putting a custom salad that has blue cheese dressing on it, so that I can wind up ordering blue cheese dressing with my hot wings.
And they do have blue cheese because the Cobb salad has blue cheese. They just don't seem to have a blue cheese dressing.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
Okay.
And the service was good. I think that the service that we had a few visits ago when we were watching A Haunting in Venice must have been a fluke, but this time it was perfectly good.
Smooth, steady, and when I forgot my phone in my chair and I went back, the guy was just like, yep, it's right there for you. You're surprised how much that happens. You're all good. So very kind, very friendly, and very helpful when things went weird for me.
So all in all, one more really great trip to the Alamo Drafthouse here at Littleton's Aspen Grove. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll be back with more Drafthouse Diaries soon. And in the meantime, enjoy your movies. And when you do, stay till the end of the credits.
And yes, that was what I freaked out about so much. That was the host of Game Theory.
I was wondering what that was about. I figured it was either the name of the diner was a reference to something or the guy playing the waiter was a cameo.
The guy playing a waiter was a cameo from an online creator.
Cool.
Who tried making a theory, figuring out the lore of this little game, and wound up running giant charity marathons playing them and such. So